Electric vehicle sales are hitting records all over the world, so clearly there's a lot of interest in them. You might be looking to ditch the bad old days of combustion engines behind and switch to an electric car yourself, but the most expensive part of owning a car is, well, buying and owning a car. In this video, we're going to walk you through some factors to consider before buying a shiny new EV. The harsh truth about electric cars is that they are awfully expensive right now. For battery electric cars, which are the real hotness at the moment, you're going to be looking at a price tag of no less than $20,000. Now, is that worth it? That's pretty much the question this video is all about, but if you can't afford that price, you simply can't afford it. But don't lose hope just yet. You should definitely look into any tax credits that you might get for purchasing an electric car in your country and or state. These kinds of tax credits are in vogue right now, but you might not apply to the cheapest battery electrics. Weigh in tax credits against the cash you'll have to drop on the car itself. If you already have a car, you could sell that too. It's entirely possible that the numbers will add up for you. If battery electric cars are out of reach, you can still opt for plug-in hybrids. These are cars that have both small battery and a gas-powered engine. The battery will give you a pretty lame range, but that could be enough for you to commute if you live in the city. On longer trips, you'll be covered by the combustion engine, but if all your trips are long, then you might as well stick with a combustion engine car instead. Going forward in this video, we're going to assume that you can theoretically afford a battery electric car. The only question is if making the switch is worth it and if now's the time to do it. We'll start with the reason you got this idea in the first place. Gas is expensive. Across the world, gas prices hit record highs this year. Though they've started to come down now, they're still higher than they were last year and will probably remain so for a while to come. To a considerable extent, this spike in gas prices has been caused by Russia's invasion of Ukraine, which should be a temporary situation. When it comes to war though, unfortunately temporary situations can last a long time, but even if Russia pulls out of Ukraine tomorrow, there will be lingering consequences from the war. The sanctions on Russia aren't going away as long as Putin is in charge, and the war has wreaked general havoc on the economics of both countries. The truth is though, this isn't about the war in Russia or anything like that. In reality, oil's always been a very volatile market by nature. There can always be critics that'll send gas prices rocketing up again, leaving car owners to dire straits. Buying an electric vehicle will insulate you from the slings and arrows of the oil market. Now at the moment, the cost of electricity is also indirectly tied to oil and other fossil fuels, because that's how many countries generate the bulk of their electricity, but with the worldwide push to renewable energy, electricity is expected to become cheaper over time. That could make investing in an EV very sensible indeed. Now, the common wisdom in buying cars is not to buy one up front. Cars are expensive, and even if you have enough cash to plonk down on the whole 9 yards at the dealer, it's probably not the wisest financial decision. You should definitely look into financing your vehicle. But make sure to check out all the options at your disposal so you can select the best one. Depending on which bank or lender you're going with, their normal auto financing options will apply to electric cars as well, but because there's a surge in demand and sales for EVs, you can find green auto loans and other financing schemes that specifically target EVs. Lenders want you to buy expensive cars. What a shocker, right? If you purchase one with more budget-friendly cars with a good financing scheme and tax credits, you can get into the electric car world for a very reasonable price indeed. There's a reason why EV sales have exploded across the board. Electric cars are more accessible than ever before. So far, we've focused on the here and now, but can you own the car? For car owners, their car is one of the most expensive running costs. It's not just about the gas, which we've looked at already. Cars need tire changes, battery changes, oil changes, and so many other changes. And that's just the routine stuff. The breaking of stuff is an inevitable part of life. If you're going to buy an expensive car, no matter what kind of fuel it takes, it's important to make sure that you can actually afford to keep the thing running over the time you own it. It's even better if you can keep the car in reasonably good shape to sell it later down the line. Cars are non-liquid assets after all. Luckily, owning an electric vehicle can actually be much cheaper than owning a combustion engine vehicle. A 2020 survey showed that EV owners are saving an average of 50% on maintenance costs. The reasons for this are simple. The underlying system for an EV is a lot less complicated and it doesn't use fluids like oil. Things can get problematic if your car breaks down though, because there isn't an entire industry built around EV parts yet. Replacing things can cost more and take longer. Although EVs are more reliable, we know that there are people out there for whom one day without their car means they don't have a job the next day. While we're on the subject of long-term costs, let's not forget about depreciation. So Teslas have held their value really well, but that's because Teslas are basically status symbols right now. For the most other EVs, depreciation is a major factor. After all, we did say that cars are non-liquid assets, and the longer you own one, the less value it'll have. In one hand, the current demand for EVs means that you should be able to sell your used EV at a reasonable price, but we're guessing that if you want to buy a car right now, you're looking to keep it for like 5 years at minimum. What could the EV market look like in 5 years? Well, one thing that'll be working against the value of a current EV is the rapid pace of technology. This is relatively uncharted territory, and each new model year brings big updates to the future set of cars. One of the reasons why Tesla holds up so well is that they can deploy features to older cars through software updates, while other car makers don't really do this. So the car you invest in today could become a really good deal for someone looking for a used car in the future, but that situation doesn't really benefit you much. Now we've talked a lot about money, but there are non-financial things you should consider. For instance, what kind of range do you drive on most days? If most of your driving is short distances in the city, a full-blown battery electric might be overkill for your needs. On the other hand, if you need a car that can truly go the distance, you should seriously consider how much range your car gets, and the longer range ones will cost more. Charging is one of the biggest factors in owning an electric car. That sounds like a no-brainer, but it's easy to underestimate the challenges of charging an electric car. For instance, if you live in an apartment, you'll have a hard time finding a place to plug your car in when it's not in use, and depending on how good your city's charging infrastructure is, you might have to go well out of your way to juice up. And as a quality of life issue, charging can take time too. Going to the gas station can be annoying, but if there's no traffic at the station, you can be in and out within minutes. Meanwhile, in the EV world, charging speeds are one of the areas that companies are rapidly attempting to develop. If the hassle of chilling at a charging station for an hour or so sounds like too much of a bother, then don't even consider an EV. Finally, while this is a decision for you to make, here's our verdict. If you really need a car, like right now, and you found a good way to finance an EV, you should go for it. In 2022, the only ones who should be buying combustion engine cars are people who can't afford electric cars or are looking for a specific type of car that doesn't yet exist in the electric world. Otherwise, think about whether you're considering this because you're into EVs or if you're just trying to make the best investment. While EVs aren't the best investment right now, your passion for technology or the environment has value too. That value could make an EV more enticing. That's it for today's video. If you have any more tips to add, do share them in the comment section below, and let us know whether we've helped you decide on investing in an EV. Whatever you do, don't drive off without liking, sharing, and subscribing. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next video.